All right, today we're going to do some fabrication. This is going to be, or these are the top plates for the new replacement posts that are going in the basement of the barn. I've spent, well, our initial plan was to just weld these on the post, and then we were gonna gusset them into the new, or weld gussets in to strengthen everything, and then just put 2 bolt holes on either side for some 1/2-inch lag bolts, because it's not like the barn can really move side to side or in any direction once it's sitting there, because if it was going to do that, it's going to fall off the whole foundation, not just the post. So really all the bolts were doing was steadying the post a little bit, and by the time you get the post buried in the concrete's going to do all the steadying, and the bolts are just going to be redundant. But we've been thinking about, or Dad and I have been thinking on it over the past couple weeks while we were waiting on material to show up for the post. And this morning during a conversation, the plan changed 3 times in the span of a 30-minute conversation. And basically the new plan, which is probably way overkill for what we're doing, but I guess if you're going to do it, you might as well do it overkill. So didn't want to drill any more didn't want to drill any more holes in the beam and take the chance of weakening it, because it's 130 something odd years old. Do the most you can to protect its integrity. And actually technically it'd be older than that, because the tree was old when they cut it down to build the barn. So it's safe to say that beam was probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 250 years old, because I'm guessing it was a pretty decent sized tree when they built the barn. But anyway, so new plan is going to be some 3-inch channel, and I got room for it in the barn. That's part of why I got started so late today, is I've made 2 trips back to my house to do measuring to make sure everything's going to work the way we want it to work. 3-inch channel welded across the bottom side of these plates, and another piece of 3-inch channel cut to go on top of the barn beam, with bolts or pinch bolts going between the plate and that channel on top to actually be pulling or squeezing the beam, and the bolts will hold everything, because they'll be up tight to the side of the beam. The bolts will hold everything in line, and that way you can get some good clamping force on the beam without actually drilling any holes and compromising the structural integrity of the wood. So that's what we're going to do today. Got enough material to get 1 post completely done. The guy that Dad buys his steel, or the guy that runs the machine shop that Dad buys all of his steel through now, because he can get better prices on it, turns out for like the last week he was having, or a week and a half, whatever it was, he was actually having a mini stroke, and he was still going to work because he thought he was just sick. And I guess it was messing with his memory, and it's funny now because he's fine and everything's going to work out, and nothing's going to negatively be affected long term. But I guess he was still going to work while technically having this little mini stroke, and it was affecting his memory. And Dad was talking to his brother after he found all this out, and he said, yeah, when you texted him to get that steel ordered, he probably forgot about it 15 minutes later, and it's a miracle he remembered to get the plates burnt out. So the second piece of box tube for the other post won't be here till later this week, but at least everything's going to work out as far as he's going to be alive and healthy and all that. So, but we'll get this done, and then we'll go up to the barn. There's a piece of 6x6 box tube. It was actually a support post that Dad got from where he used to work. they used to use them for building temporary platforms around. He used to build a lot of steel form roll mills. Most of them went down to mills in Sedalia, Missouri. But and he used to have more, but they got cut up for other projects. But it's one of those that they used to use for building temporary walkways around these machines while they were building them in the factory or in the machine shop. So anyhow, we'll get this part of the fab work done, and then we'll go up with, I'll just take 1600 up there with the forks and grab that beam, and we'll come down here and get one post. But anyway, so I'm gonna start cutting some steel here. Alright, I got everything. Well, I didn't get everything. I'm gonna have to get some more channel because I'm 2 pieces short. So I need 8, and I was only able to cut 6 out of that piece we had. So, but everything that I could cut is cut and deburred. So I got the mill set up. We're ready to start punching some holes. Alright, all holes are drilled, deburred, so now we're ready to do a little bit of welding. So we can get these assembled onto here before this goes on the post. So I'm going to get set up real quick and we'll get that done. Now I'm going to hang the channel over the edge of the plate just a skosh so that I have a good spot to lay a weld bead. Yeah, I like that better than... Or should I? Give me a minute. Okay, I like this better. I flipped it over and we're gonna set the channel in on the plate a little bit so I got a place to lay a bead of weld. So, I like that better. It looks a little cleaner. Okay, that's all welded up. So now the next thing is going to be to go up and grab the beam so that we can cut that down to size and get one of these assembled on. Okay, now begins the fun part, because I gotta get this heavy bastard in the saw, which I'm gonna bring the saw over here. But I need 98 inches overall length, got in a 1-inch plate on the bottom and a 1/2-inch plate going on the top, so that means I need the cut to be 97 or 96 and a half from the top of the base plate, which naturally is going to put me like right here on the edge of these two plates where they used to have cross braces bolted. So anyway, figure out how I can wrestle this thing into the saw. All right, we are at over the bottom of the base plate. We are at 97 and a half, right on the money. So throw the extra 1/2-inch plate on top, will be at 98. And because I need this as square as possible, I got it clamped with the main clamp, and then just to make sure everything was pulled up square, I pulled it up against the fence with a C-clamp, and I pulled it down against the table with a C-clamp. So it should be level with the table, and, or I guess it'd be level with the fence, or in line with the fence and level with the table. So once it's cut, it's cut. That's the downside. Okay, I wire brushed the whole beam. That took a minute. I had to sit down for a second after doing that. My arms turned to jelly. Running a grinder for that long, especially with a wire wheel, it really cranks on you. And then I got my box laid out where the two have to meet up. Got a 90-degree angle block clamped to the plate, so that squares me up to the beam. Which it looks like, just judging by it, my saw cut was pretty good to begin with. So, but it's square this way and it's square that way, so should be good to tack that on there. Okay, now before I do my weld here, I'm going to get my gussets cut and tacked in. That way I don't have to try to fit them around the weld, and I can just weld everything in that way. So, got to measure. I'm going to have to cut some of the tip off to make it fit. And we're all welded together. Probably a touch overkill for the job it's doing, but it's definitely going to be strong, especially having these on here and being tied in a block like that, because that means that the plate can't belly over backwards, which is going to be what it's going to try to do with the weight sitting on it. So by doing all this boxing, that just got really, really strong, really, really fast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up the ends and get some paint on them. I'm not going to paint the whole thing, because at least at this current moment, because the only way to get this thing in the barn, we ain't got anything mechanical to do it, because we don't have anything big enough or small enough to fit in there, so we have to manhandle it, and Lord knows how much banging and scraping we're going to do getting it in the hole and upright and where it needs to be. So there's no sense in painting the center until it's in. But I can get the top painted and get the bottom painted. Especially the surfaces. This still a little toasty. Especially the surfaces that you're obviously not going to be able to get into or get to once it's painted. So slap a little bit of shiny on that real quick, and we'll wrap this guy up. Alright, I got one coat on. It's going to take a second one. I hate spraying white. Stuff never wants to cover. Just white and yellow. And depending on the shade of orange. I just hate spraying light pigmented colors. And I ran out of paint before I can get a coat on the top plates, but it's too late in the evening. Everything's, well, I could go to Lowe's, but by the time I get there, turn around and get back, I'll just wait till the hardware store in town's open tomorrow. So, and I got a couple things I got to do. I'm going to cut some, Dad and I were talking about it, it's probably a good idea to cut some blocks to fill the mortises in the beam where the original posts tenon into them. So I'm going to do that tomorrow after work. Actually, tomorrow after work, I got to take my rock guards to the UPS store to get them shipped back to shoot. And I got to go had to go get something. Oh, I was going to go see if I can find a different PTO lock pin for the mower while I was over there, and I guess I'll go get some more spray paint, because I'm going to need more to do the other post anyhow. So, and finish spraying this post. So, anyway, I guess that's it for this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one.